Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to witness an intellectual showdown of epic proportions in this next segment, Counterpoint. In one corner, it's the heavyweight contender, Private Equity. In the other corner, the traditional, doctor-owned practice.
Well, shit. Welcome to three-man enter, one-man leave, I guess, is what we're going to do. They're all my friends. I don't know if they're going to be friends when it's over with, but definitely got Dr. Greg White, founder, PepperPointe Partnerships, middle. My friend Kerry Strain Dental Management and Consulting. You heard from him a few minutes ago. And then we got Mike Panahi, Roll-A-Go Capital. This is going to be dueling viewpoints about how to grow your DSO, whether you take on a private equity investment or you go it alone.
So I have no problem with DSOs, first of all. I think the DSO structure is probably the absolute best way to unite doctors in order to get them their best future. My problem when private equity enters in it is who owns the non-clinical assets. That's my issue with it. And really it comes down to this. We're talking about the best model, right? So as I look at that from a criteria, what things must be true in order for something to be the better model? I think it has to be the absolute best financial outcome for the doctor. I think it has to be sustainable. And I think it has to create the absolute best alignment for all of the stakeholders. And that's the profession, the doctor, the patients, and the communities in which they serve. And that's what ours does.
Okay, but what's the problem with private equity? Some of these things return 3 and 4 to 1. I mean, I just want to get to there are private equity platforms out there that do all those things. So what's your problem?
So here's the issue. I'll use an example. I have a $2 million practice, $1 million overhead. I'm taking home $1 million a year. I'm a practitioner. I practiced orthodontics for 28 years. Private equity-backed DSO will come to me and say, Greg, we would like to make you a deal you can't refuse. We're going to give you an employment contract in which you're going to make $300,000 a year. We're going to take the $700,000 that you were making. We're going to apply a multiple of 5 to it. We're going to value your practice at $3.5 million. Here's $3 million in a check, $500,000 in stock. Be sure and go out and say great things about what you did so others will follow suit and you can get a payday in our 3 to 5 year window. Well, I just lost $700,000 a year for the next 4 years. So basically, I just took a 4-year cash advance on money I'm going to have to make anyway. Cash advance. I would be better off going to a bank, borrowing the money, self-imposing the pay cut on myself, paying it back at the end of 5 years. I've got my $3 million. I got my $1 million income back, and I own my practice. And when I say I own my practice, I mean I own all the non-clinical assets. I own the furniture, fixtures, equipment. I own the profit. I own the names of the practice. I own the leases on the practices. When private equity talks about partnership, they mean we're going to be a partner in that we own all of that, and you own the work, the job, and the liability. That's not a partnership I really want to be a part of.
Hey, Kerry, is it as shitty as he says?
What was that, Brian?
Is it as shitty as he says?
It can be that bad. I mean, I think you've got it. You hear in the real estate business, buyer beware. I think in the DSO business is seller beware. I couldn't agree with you more.
I just want to make sure you understand the gravity of what Greg just said to you.
Yeah,
he said if you own the non-clinical assets, that's a bullshit deal and it sucks. Your organization owns a non-clinical asset. So he called you a bullshit deal. So I'm trying to understand where we are with this.
This is what Brian does, but he's an attorney. I mean, it's okay. Our clients sold in for cash, and our clients own 80% of our DSO today.
Own 80% of the non-clinical assets?
Own 80% of the entity that owns all the business.
Okay, no. How do they have control and ownership of those non-clinical assets?
They do they're partners subject to the LLC agreement and their rights according to that. They're shareholders in the DSO.
They do not have control of it.
Well, they don't want control. No, not everybody wants control.
Who doesn't
Greg, do you want control?
Huh?
Do you want control?
PepperPointe does not own or control any.
Well, that's what I mean. As a dentist, do you want control?
Oh, as a dentist, absolutely, I want control.
So that's the issue. That's the issue.
The result of what they're talking about here, when you buy out all of the non-clinical assets,
right,
and you give that check and you give them that stock, 5 years from now, they're going to be replaced at some point by a dentist, your daughter. that's going to come in and is going to work at market rate forever, because you're not just buying the practice from these doctors, you're buying all the future profits out. You're absolutely turning them into a commodity. You're commoditizing the next generation of doctors. You're completely laying bare and moonscaping the entire area. And it's just exactly what happened in medicine and pharmacy, and I don't think there's anybody that can argue that's been good. So here's what we set up. I looked at this and saw this need out there. I'm looking at this saying, yes, number one, this dentist coming out of school with all this debt, they can't start their own practice. They can't buy in and compete with the multiples here. So what needs to be done? So what I did was I aggregated all of the dentists in an area, making them realize, guys, we're not each other's competition anymore. This is the competition. The people who are coming in, infusing this money and buying the future profits out of the practice, that is who is competing with the next generation of dentists. We got to stop seeing each other as competitors, start seeing each other as partners. So all on one day in 2019, we had 20 practices, 16 pedo and 4 ortho, 50 locations in central Kentucky that all came together and became a group practice. No money changed.
Does it work for him, though? I mean, his example of a dental student that comes out with $1 million of debt, I mean, can they join your, I mean, does it work for them?
Yes, it does, because when we set this structure up and we have these 50 offices, they all have ownership in 2 different entities. One is the group practice and another is a holding company. They have to agree when they come in to create that group. Now, remember, they're not taking any money, but they're also not getting a reduction in income. In fact, that group went from 20 million to 28 million in profitability in 3 years, comparing 19 to 23. 40% increase in profitability. So now, when they get ready to sell their portion of that group practice, at any point in the future, they have to sell their portion of the group practice along with all of the non-clinical assets to the next generation of doctor, which my daughter is one of, a pediatric dentist who is making $400,000 as an associate in the group, is buying $100,000 of the profits for $350,000, a 3.5 multiple. She's 32 years old, she's making $500,000, and she only has $350,000 that she had to pay for it. So why would those doctors give up that equity for 3.5 multiple? Because they get to maintain their ownership in that holding company forever, and they get passive income from that, which takes them to a 10 multiple. When you don't have the hands of private equity in the pot, you don't have the PE group in there, the institutional investors and the DSO, the money goes back to the doctors and to the staff and to the other folks that are coming in to replace. It reconstituted the old transition model, but in a way that works against the disruptors and the plunderers that are coming in, stealing for the next 4 years' profits, all of the assets of all of those practices, okay?
But in general, the rest of the world doesn't operate that way?
Well, it doesn't operate that way. If that was the case, then he'd be able to replicate this all over the country.
I did. I've done it 3 more times in Western New York, Central Virginia, getting ready to go to Mississippi, here in Texas.
How many total practices?
Total number of practices, 87.
Well, there's about 150, 60,000 practices,
Okay.
and I don't know that you can save everybody.
Listen, you're not going to have them all either, Kerry.
No, but it's going to be a I don't intend
You're
to.
not going to get them. So my point is this, okay? This is my point. We are not going to win everywhere. Their money and the lack of ability for people to do math, or just the idea that you're going to negotiate the terms of your own surrender to people like this, they will win. I will stipulate you will win, but I will win, and my doctors will win, and the patients will win, and the communities will win where we choose to play.
Well, I wish you the best.